So the first thing I did this morning when I woke up was grab me a cup of coffee, sit down in my chair like I am right now, open up this episode of Uncle from Another World, watch it, and just be absolutely immersed, amazed, happy, laughing, and just leaving the episode with a general good feeling. And I love that feeling first thing in the morning. Like when I wake up and I just can watch a good show and be like, man, this is good. This has just made my entire day. And honestly, this has, because just like, I really like this show, and if you have not seen my first impressions on Uncle from Another World, I highly recommend you to actually go watch my first impressions I uploaded late last week. But before I go any further, I talk about episode 2, etc., you're probably wondering, okay, so why do I have this on screen? What's going on here? So I'm mixing up this video format a little bit. I'm testing something out with this video, and if you guys don't like it, obviously I will go back to the normal format. Do not worry, this is more of a test, so just do let me know your thoughts in it when the video ends, or tell me right now, it doesn't matter, just let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. But basically, the reason why the format's like this, I want to be able to actually go through the episode and just talk about certain scenes, to have it on screen for you could see it for yourself visually. That's kind of what I want to do. Now, one thing in particular I want to talk about first is obviously this scene right quick. My camera might be slightly blocking it, but basically you have one of the main characters, the nephew of, RMC, he actually pulls up a game called Guardian Heroes, and when I first saw this, I was like, is this legit? And I did some research and some digging, and apparently it legitimately is an actual thing. So here is the actual ratings of the games on Sega, and if you go actually to the exact number, you will see Guardian Heroes right here, and it's a legitimate game. Like, even the cover looks the same. Like, here, I want to try to pull it up here. I don't know if it'll actually show, but yeah, look at this. The cover is legitimately the same almost as this. Like, look at that. Like, it's to the side. I think that's literally an exact replica, pretty much, of the cover, which is ridiculous to think about, that they got something like this inside of this show. And also, once again, another thing that's really fascinating is basically, the report. Like, for instance, when he was crying in the rain here, let me try to find it real quick, because he started crying. He pulled out a book here, and this book right quick, if you look, this book here is actually something you can buy legitimately online right here. You could see it. And I was just like, holy crap. The attention to detail to have something like this is absolutely insane. Like, I mean, even like, where it's at when it came out, etc. I always like that type of stuff when it's in an anime. And I think that it's a nice little immersive thing for those that are actually fans of Sega or know their history of games, etc. I think this is just extremely cool. I know not everybody's going to care about this detail, but this is definitely something that stuck out to me when I finished the episode and did a little digging. I was like, wow, wow, I did not think they would just go that far for that. It really just goes to show that this man's passion, for Sega, and probably the author as well that wrote this story probably is a fan of Sega. I think this is great. This is a really good series, and just stuff like that is what really amazes me. But let's talk about a few details. One thing in particular I want to talk about is this new female character we get introduced, her right quick. And she's introduced into this episode, and from what we can quickly just gather from it, she's going to be a love interest for the nephew character here. She's in love with him, and, he's a dense MC, what it seems like. It seems like he's just trying to treat her as a childhood friend, and we know how childhood friends end up. We know that they don't necessarily have a good ending. Like, they don't have an ending to where they're able to get with the MC. Usually, it's the new girl that pops up in their life that becomes the main love interest, which is sad, because the childhood friend doesn't normally win when sometimes they actually should, when you think about just the relationship to the character and all that. But instead of going on that long-winded rant, the point I'm trying to make is she's introduced, and she's a potential love interest for this character. Don't know how far that's going to go. It might be used as just to mix up the plot, because honestly, at this point in time, even though it's interesting to see the character in this world and all that, introducing more characters to interact with the uncle, I think, is incredibly important, and getting to see other people's reactions to his lifestyle, I think, is something huge, because, for one, we gotta remember how people's gonna view the MC of this story. The uncle, he's someone that has basically been in a coma for 17 years, he starts mumbling some gibberish, like, she sees him in the park here, like, here, I want to try to get to the scene, she sees him in the park here, and he's, like, mumbling to himself, sitting down, And it's just creepy. Overall, like, when you look at this scene, he has that expression of creepiness. And it's like, oh my goodness. You're like, yeah, you would want to avoid this if you just saw someone sitting there mumbling to themselves and all that. Like, you might assume maybe they have, like, like something in their ear to maybe talk to someone, like, you know, they have that wireless, like, microphone or whatever, like, that's in their ear to be able to talk on the phone, but you don't see a phone. It looks very creepy. It's in the middle of a park. You just, yeah. And so when you hear him muttering stuff like that and laughing and all that, it's creepy. And I love how people's reactions to his character actually is, because for one, that's what the general populace probably would think when they see someone like him. Is like, you're crazy, you've gone insane. And then obviously finding out that, you know, he's living with the nephew, like she finds out he's living with the nephew. And her love interest, you know, she instantly thinks like he's a bum. He's someone that is not making money, someone that is using him, crazy, etc. And she automatically feels bad for her love interest. And it's such an interesting reaction, because that is the typical reaction I think people would have, even as a YouTuber as well. And I actually 100% relate with that. Like, he starts talking about like how he's a YouTuber, and like he's like, yeah, you know, I make enough money. And I think that's really interesting for the sheer fact that, you know, I'm a YouTuber. And she obviously can't fully understand that, and I don't know. I really relate with this episode, and I understand this episode and some of the themes and messages. It's great. It's a really good episode of, you know, Uncle from Another World. But, okay, let's talk about some of the things, the aspects that we learn about, you know, our main character here throughout the episode. One of the big details that this episode does is show more of his, like, life when he's in the other world, like here. Like, this is, like, apparently a Thanksgiving/New Year's Eve party. And we've already kind of seen a little bit of showcasing of this in, you know, the first episode, but he's someone that is a loner. He's someone that doesn't really have any relationships when he was in another world, and this is just, when you look at it from like this, from the outside looking in, it's incredibly sad, and obviously the uncle doesn't see it like that, but at the same time, we don't really know how the inner thoughts of his mind works. He might have felt lonely, we don't know, and that's why I find these type of stories very interesting, because the concept, even if it has been done in a lot of different series, as I said in my first impressions, they don't usually blow up in popularity, and I don't get to experience these stories often, because obviously, when you transport to another world, it's not always going to end in a happy ending. It's not always going to be happy and satisfying, and getting to see something like this is also breaking the mold, even if it is used for a comedic effect. Obviously, like, this man is dense, or he just can't make relationships. It's also incredibly sad and depressing, because obviously he was in this fantasy world, and he wasn't really able to interact and mingle with people and form everlasting bonds. And that's what makes the entire premise of this sad, funny, and just so much mixed emotions. And I love that message, because that's what makes this type of storytelling unique, especially getting to see the end of a journey of an isekai. But, obviously, events happen after this, and he actually has, like, you know, this girl come into his room, and she's basically acting like, hey, you know, why'd you do this? Can you help me not be a coward? And all this dialogue. And the way he treats this entire exchange with her, by the way, is straight up something out of, like, you're playing, like, let's say an Elder Scrolls game, or just an RPG game in general, and you see the main quest is to kill a dragon, and then you have this side quest of, let's say, this girl's like, can you get me a bunch of apples for I can feed my family? It's a side quest, and obviously, to the character asking for apples to feed her family, you know, it's incredibly important to her. Like, it's very important, because if she doesn't get those apples, her family's probably gonna starve. Okay, and when you're playing a game, let's be honest, you're playing an RPG, and you're seeing a dragon, you're seeing this cool dungeon, this loot, etc., you probably forget about the side quest. You're like, I'll hold it off, I'll go back to it another day. Eventually, you exit out of the game, you never get those apples for that character. And that's pretty much what he does here. He legitimately doesn't do her side quest to be able to pick flowers for her, which in turn makes her feel very inadequate, or feel like she is a coward, what can she do? And when he takes her down a path and says, it's okay to be a coward, it's okay to live the life, you know, hold up in your cave or whatever, and basically he straight up just corrupts her. This entire scene here, when he, like, talks to her about it, it's funny because it's like he corrupts her very being, and she just goes in isolation, and he does, like, a very villainous move, honestly. I think this is a a funny like deconstruction of what an RPG is, because once again, she's a side quest, and he could have easily have had a happy ending with her, maybe been a love interest, but he didn't do that because he forgot to do the side quest. I'm just like, oh my goodness. It's great. I love it. I love so many different aspects of this episode. One thing I do want to talk about, though, is the opening song real quick. So, let me see if it's actually here. I don't know, it was the opening song this episode? Yeah, here it is. So, one of the big things about this opening song that needs to be talked about is that the elf character right here, oh, I just saw her. Let me find her. Yeah, here. She's actually in this world real quick, and I noticed this in the opening. I didn't talk about this in my first impressions, but I want to talk about it here. This is obviously the elf that, you know, he kind of abandoned in that town in the first episode, and this implies that she's probably going to come to the actual world and probably be his love interest. I'm legitimately curious on how that's going to be. I am so curious because obviously he's older looking. She obviously still looks the same. She has glasses on, but she still kind of looks the same. I'm curious on how that's going to go. And, man, I like this series. I really love this series. I've been having such a blast with it. I think many of you guys as well have. And I'm happy to start my morning off talking about such a good show. But yeah, I guess I'm going to leave it at that. Once again, I want to reinstate, if you're wanting to watch this show and you're wanting to try to find how to watch this, you got to go through other means, because it's in Netflix jail, as I said in my first impression. So you got to go through, you know, alternate means. I'm not going to share my sources for obvious reasons, don't want to get in any trouble, but yeah, just FYI on that. But yeah, you all have a fantastic day or night wherever you live. If you enjoyed the video, leave me a like, help me out a lot with that, and if you enjoyed this type of format, do let me know in the comments below as well, because I'm trying to mix things up a little bit, do a little bit of experimentation. Doesn't mean it is going to be good, or you guys are going to react probably well to it. For all I know, you guys might say, this is absolutely awful, do never do this again, and I'll listen to you, because obviously, without you guys, I couldn't be doing this. So you guys, what you say really does matter to me, so let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. But with that, though, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, if you did enjoy the video, or you didn't like the video, or whatever, just leave your thoughts on it with a like or dislike, etc., because I obviously can still see the dislikes, even if you guys cannot. So, I'm still able to get a proper reception to the video. But okay, guys, be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.